Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Amitabh Kant. Mr. Kant is the CEO of NITI Aayog, which is the National Institution of Transforming India. We'd love to hear a little bit about Mr. Amitabh Kant's background and NITI Aayog himself, from the man himself. So we might just get started, Amitabh, just by asking you, just tell us a little bit about your background and NITI Aayog, and then we'll start a conversation.
Well, I'm from the Indian Administrative Service, and my parent cadre is Kerala. I was working in Kerala, and I was the district collector of Kozhikode, which is Calicut, where Vasco da Gama had landed and discovered India. And subsequently, I worked in the fisheries sector of Kerala with traditional fishermen, which is a great part of I greatly enjoyed that period of my life and career. And I subsequently became Secretary Tourism. It was meant to be a punishment posting for me because nobody had heard of Kerala as a tourism destination. But Kerala went on to become a very iconic tourism destination because we differentiated it from the rest of the world. And we created new products like houseboat, backwaters. It's traditional cuisine, it's traditional martial art. We took it back to its roots. Right. And then one fine day, the Prime Minister of India came there for a holiday, and subsequently I was brought to the Ministry of Tourism, where I did the Incredible India campaign. Yes, that's right. Yes. And later I was the CEO of the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, and then I became Secretary, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, where I did ease of doing business. I drove the opening up of the foreign direct investment regime and several initiatives. And later I was made the CEO of the National Institution for Transforming India. And NITI Aayog is actually a successor organization to the Planning Commission. But while Planning Commission used to do annual and 5-yearly plans, NITI Aayog has moved away from rigid planning into a 15-year perspective plan. It doesn't do planning, but it does a vision document for 15 years. Right. It does a 7-year strategy document and a 3-year action plan. Right. But more than that, it works with several states to drive growth and progress of India.
Fantastic. Just a little bit more about NITI Aayog. How is it, in the last 5 years, obviously, how is it transforming India? What are
it does several innovative things. It works with states to do their ranking across sectors. It works in partnership with the states. It drives innovation through Atal Innovation Mission. We've opened about 4,000 tinkering labs. We support incubation centers. We do several things, but we also do a vast range of innovative things of relating to reforms within the government of India, like oil and gas, like education, several areas. We work in every area where reform is required, and we work in partnership with the concerned ministry and the Prime Minister's office. The chairman is the Prime Minister of India.
You know, in your tenure at the NITI Aayog, you've transformed this belief and this system within, the ecosystem, where technology and innovation is the driver that's transforming India into a new India. Tell us a little bit about some of those, innovations that have come through NITI Aayog.
So various things. I think firstly is the belief that Prime Minister's belief that India must become easy and simple. So we drove the ease of doing business. India jumped up 65 positions in the ease of doing business. We drove the Startup India initiative. A lot of the startup movement has been driven. We've driven the Atal Innovation Mission, where we've supported 4,000 tinkering labs. We've supported incubation centers. We are doing several challenges relating to the various problems which India is confronted with. And we've driven innovation across sectors. We've driven the new artificial intelligence policy, which is called Artificial Intelligence for All. We're driving blockchain projects. And our objective is that India must become a very innovative society, and we are driving a lot of cutting-edge technology across several sectors of India.
And all of these initiatives and innovations, can you give us one example of how it's actually affected the common man in India?
So a whole range of things, one of which is a program called the Aspirational District of India. And we look at 115 districts which keep India backwards. We don't call them backwards, we call them the aspirational districts of India. We've identified 49 indicators, and on these indicators, we rank these districts on a real-time basis. And we put this in public domain. We've created a huge sense of competition. So real-time data, competition, working with the collectors, working with their team, motivating them, and working with non-governmental organizations, which can then work with the collectors, has led to a huge difference in these aspirational districts.
Fantastic. Something that's very close to me and something I'm studying at the moment and working on is the area of ease of doing business with India. And as the Secretary for DIPP, you put a tremendous amount of effort in getting India's ranking up in that World Bank's ranking. Tell us a little bit more about the ease of doing business, what you did at DIPP, and how you managed to climb those 65 positions and then some. And you know, as of next year, I believe we're trying to look at getting to 50.
So, Prime Minister's belief, Prime Minister Modi's belief, was that India must become easy and simple, and he asked us to. He challenged us to make India easy, and one of the things was to do away with rules, regulation, procedures, paperwork. 1,300 laws were scrapped, and everything was digitized, so that instead of getting in touch with humans, you get in touch with digital, and departments speak to each other digitally. And I think that has led to a scrapping of a lot of rules and regulation, and therefore India has jumped up 65 positions in the last 4 years in the ease of doing business. But we still are doing a lot of work. We are still at it. We are doing some really path-breaking work, and our objective is to make India come in the top 25 positions in the next 3 years. Wow. That's the challenge which the Prime Minister set for ourselves. Okay. Yeah.
That's tremendous. Yeah. So one of the challenges we have in Australia is in the past, a few Australian companies, quite a few Australian companies and Australians have actually entered India and have not had a very good experience. But they're quite hesitant now to go to India. So for challenges for people like myself and others that are promoting India is to show these Australians and the new crop of Australians the new India. And as such, last year the Australian government released a report called the India Economic Strategy to 2035, which outlines 10 potential industry sectors within 10 states. It's a very well-written report. It highlights a number of experiences that Australian companies have had. But from the ground, your experience in India, what are some of the things that and opportunities that Australian companies and Australian people have in India that they can actually take advantage of?
So there's a huge opportunity in every area in India. There's the only country which has size and scale of demand, and rarely has demand not picked up across sectors, and therefore we've now opened up foreign direct investment in every single sector. 98% of our FDI comes through the automatic route. So we've opened up the oil and gas sector, we've opened up the real estate sector, we are opening up coal, we are opening up mining. Every sector is opened up for foreign direct investment, and Australia must get into these areas. We're here to provide them a helping hand, we are here to support them, and we'll ensure that Australian business are handheld to achieve success. They must create wealth for themselves. Australian companies must understand that India is growing at 7.5%. It is accelerating its growth. It will grow at 9 to 10% in the subsequent years. And there's a big market. And you produce for the domestic market, but essentially you should look at global size and scale and penetrate global markets. So there is a massive India, huge opportunity. Australian companies, for them, the future is not Australia. The future is India.
India, yes. So in your eyes, what are the 2 or 3 sectors that Australian companies should really focus on?
I think my view is that Australian companies need to look at construction, they need to look at real estate, they need to look at food processing, and they need to look at mines, minerals, and coal in the coming days. The size and scale commercial mining of coal will open up, and there's a huge, massive opportunity around mines and minerals.
Right. You know, all too often as I travel to India on a regular basis, some of the feedback that I receive is that Australia has very good skill sets and intellectual property in specific areas, but India still doesn't see Australia as a priority market. Australia has to work much harder for that relationship, which is fair enough. The soft diplomacy between the two countries, I believe, there are two bridges. One is the Indian diaspora, and the second one, in all honesty, I think is sport or cricket, where when I go to India, a lot of people say to me, look, we find it hard to communicate or even start a dialogue if they don't start off with cricket. And they're kind of envious of Australia from a cricketing perspective, because they have that common conversation and camaraderie, if you want to call it that. Would you say that that's a fair comment, or is there more that we can do?
No, there's a huge strength, because Indians are used to Australia, not only on the cricketing field. They're great admirers of some of the most outstanding cricketers in the world, from Donald Bradman to Border to a whole lot of Watson, Smith, who are now playing in IPL, and some scintillating cricket they are playing. And there's some truly Steve Waugh, all of them are brilliant cricketers, outstanding sportsmen. But the other big, huge advantage which Australia has, that every year there's 64,000 students who come here.
Correct.
And that's a massive, they're the ambassadors of Australia and India. And therefore, that's a huge plus, and we should leverage this in a much bigger way. And the soft power of India really gets represented through these sectors. And as India opens up for education investment, Australian universities should not look at only attracting Indian students, but look at investing in India to open their own campuses, and look at India on collaborating with Indian universities for opening up joint courses.
Has the policy changed in regards to setting up campuses and investing in India? Because my belief was, in the past, the policy said that you just set up, you have to spend a specific amount of money, but in as far as repatriation of profits, it was very difficult to do that.
No, so for the 60 top universities, which is category 1 and 2, the policy is opened up, and they can collaborate with them to run joint campuses, joint courses, everything together. That's a big move forward, and I think the policy will further keep opening up in due course.
And finally, you're here for a few days in Australia. What are some of the priorities for you to take away to India?
I think there's great vibrancy, there's great energy here, and there's great collaborative partnership, and I think we need to work together to take this relationship forward. There's a huge quantum jump possible. There's a huge possibility of achieving growth and progress for mutual benefit.
Actually, one more thought came to mind I'd like to talk to you about, is that Australia has a huge savings, pot of savings, close to $3 trillion, and every year through our superannuation compulsory, Australians save about $70 billion. A lot of that investment is domestic, and then it goes to US and Europe. It's been very tough to attract that investments into India. What do we need to do to get that investments into India?
No, so you need to get the right projects with the right revenue streams. So we've recently sold 9 roads to Macquarie Bank. Yes. They're running them, and we are going to open up airports, we are going to open up our stadiums, we are going to open up many areas of future growth, and I think it's for these pension funds and these banks to really look at business opportunities. As long as India continues to provide great stable opportunities, there's a massive potential possible.
Wonderful. Amitabh, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Appreciate that. Thank you.